adventurous. I love traveling even though it had been confined to the United States, and I love experiencing new things. The level of adventure I experienced in South Africa is something that I'd always wanted but never thought I would achieve. I feel that my first situation that called for a bit of adventurous spirit was in Soweto. Soweto was a culture shock in itself. It was our first real experience of South Africa in the daylight. We received a great tour, and one stop in our trip was at the small businesses run by the people who live there. A group of men were cooking something, and Zach, our tour guide, wanted us to try it. We walked by a large tree with a pile of freshly skinned cow skulls at the base. The men pulled some meat out of a pot, set it down on the table, and used a machete-style knife to cut it up. I had promised myself that I was going to try all of the food in South Africa, but this seemed to be a little bit much for me. I went up to the table and picked up a piece of the hot, squishy meat. I can't say that I was brave enough to actually chew and swallow the whole piece, but I did lick it a little. The fur that was still attached definitely was a bit too much for me. Nevertheless, this experience opened the door for further adventure while in South. For those who are looking forward to hearing about some real adventure, there's the shark diving and the big game safari. 5 of us decided that we wanted to use our free time and money to spend a day in Hansby in a cage, in the Atlantic Ocean, surrounded by great white sharks. We got to Shark Diving Unlimited, the company we went through, and they gave us a great breakfast to prepare us for the rest of the day. Finally, we headed out to the boat. After a short drive, we were parked, and the crew began throwing fish chum into the water to attract the sharks. After a short time, we saw our first shark. It was huge. We finally managed to squeeze into our wetsuits, put on our goggles, and we were ready to go. Prior to climbing into the cage, a 20-pound weight was thrown over our shoulders. It was finally my time to get into the cage. I lowered myself into the water, carefully following the directions on where to put my hands and feet. I was sitting in the frigid water when the captain gave the command. "Down," he said, meaning that a shark was nearby and we should go underwater to see it. I hesitated for a second before awkwardly lowering myself underwater into the cage. It was incredible. Small fish were swimming all around us while a giant great white sulked by. I was so surprised at how calm and tranquil the sharks seemed. Another excursion we were fortunate to go on was an overnight safari. We arrived at Aquila Game Reserve and after a short wait climbed up into the open jeeps we would be traveling in. We started our safari and were able to see all types of African animals. There were springbok, elephants, zebras, and ostriches. The real adventure started when we entered the lion enclosure. The lions were feeding and ripping apart an animal as we approached. I had been a bit nervous to be that close to a giant deadly cat, but especially now that it was while they were eating. The female started to become a bit worrisome to all of us. They kept sitting in a pounce position and even started to follow the jeep as we began to leave. Though this experience was incredibly nerve-wracking, how many people can say that they had been stalked by a lion? These experiences and the many I didn't talk about will always be a part of me. I feel that I've changed, but for the better. Along with compassion, patience, and an understanding of what it means to be a global citizen, I also learned to be adventurous. I know that I'm not going to be able to stay home for long, and I can't wait to see where my next round of travels takes me.